Hands up. How many people have seen Lord of the Rings? Even just one of the films? Fantastic. Well, for those who don't know, they were filmed in New Zealand. At the start of last year, I went on a trip there. And like those who've been or those who've seen Lord of the Rings, I was stunned by just how beautiful it was. Different to Australia's arid landscape, New Zealand is very verdant, rolling hills of emerald and jade, diamond-colored lakes. But what stuck out to me most from that trip were the trees. And they are captivating. But their aesthetic is ultimately not what's important. For the environment, the shade they provide cools down the planet. They can provide habitat and be used as a building material. And most prevalently, in terms of combating climate change, they conduct photosynthesis, converting the carbon we produce into breathable oxygen. But as we look at the climate crisis, we have to ask, is it enough? Can we actually outplant CO2? Or are we just decorating a broken future? Looking around the room, I can tell that I'm within the company of a lot of intelligent people. So, I'm sure you all know that CO2 is the most significant threat to our planet, and that even if we stopped producing it today, it would still be an issue. Before the Industrial Revolution, we sat at around 270 to 280 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. But it's now at over 430 and rising. And when it starts to become dangerous at around 400, the issue seems a little more overwhelming. And as much as these numbers exactly may be new to you, I'm sure you've heard some version of the story before. And the first solution that would probably come to your mind thanks to PSAs, movements, TED Talks, and my wonderfully written intro is probably that we can help by planting trees. But let's get some numbers on what the trees themselves are actually doing. The average tree will sequester anywhere from 20 to 30 kilograms of carbon from the atmosphere every year. Taking the high end of that estimate, it means that it would only take 33 trees to clear out a metric ton of carbon from the atmosphere. That sounds like a lot. But it really isn't. In 2023, the average Australian produced 14 tons of carbon on their own. And globally, last year, we produced 42.2 billion metric tons of carbon. That means, with some generous number manipulation, that it would take about 1 trillion trees or a 13th worth of all of the land on Earth of additional trees taking in carbon at their maximum rate just to break even on the carbon from last year. So is it enough then? No. At where we are with carbon production, it's just not realistic or viable to address the problem by planting trees. Which means we need to tackle the problem a little differently. Let's look a little deeper. Globally, most of the carbon emissions comes from the burning of fossil fuels, like coal and other carbon-based substances. In Australia, 91% of energy production comes from these sources. So what if there was a way to offset the carbon we've already produced whilst helping to produce energy for us? Introducing artificial photosynthesis. A group of scientists at Berkeley, California have been working on one of these systems. And it looks a little like this. Small 1-inch trays about this big. Using solar energy, they convert water and carbon dioxide into fuels that we can use. They do this using a mix of living bacteria and electrical semiconductors. And his second version produced methane, a natural gas still used in many of the fuels that we have today, and is far less toxic to the environment than the carbon-based fuels. Currently, he's also producing butane with it. In the future, he hopes to replace the bacteria with synthetic elements that convert the energy themselves. This could mean a future where our cars, our homes, our industries are powered by the same thing cleaning our atmosphere. And it could serve as a sustainable model for generations to come. There are other technologies that are being worked on as well. You've got carbon sequestration technologies, which store the carbon underground or use it to make concrete. And you've got capture technologies like giant vacuum cleaners that just suck it out of the air. Does any of this mean that planting trees is bad? No. And until these cyberorganic systems of the future become widespread, any little decision you do can help the planet. As a young person, I spent so many years being told we're inheriting a dying world. I refused to accept that. And technologies like the photosynthetic biohybrid system are an example of how we can make change both today and into the future. Do you remember the statistic I said from before about how the average Australian produces 14 tons of carbon? Well, in 2007, it was 19.2. That's a 27% reduction. We are making change, but there's still a ways to go. But the world doesn't need more of the same. It needs bold ideas and people and teams who aren't afraid to challenge the norm. Because real change, real world-shifting, planet-saving change, it doesn't come from doing things the same way they've always been done. It's deciding to unbreak the future by first breaking the past. So go ahead. Think big, think bold, think weird. The world needs action, it needs invention, and it needs you. Thank you.